For the first time in, I think, 18 months, I don't have a plan or something on my needles in this yarn. My motivation has taken a big hit because of it. Roll this all out to kind of measure it, only I didn't have measuring tape or anything else to measure. I just wanna hyper focus, I wanna knit on one thing until it's finished. Hi, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, hi, my name is Oline and I'm a knitter from Norway, and welcome to my knitting podcast. Here I talk about all things knitting, current projects, finished projects, planned projects, and I do talk a fair bit about all of my yarn, just anything that pops into my head while we sit here and chat. Thank you so much for coming to hang out with me this week. This week is a bit of a special episode because it is episode number 100 and I cannot believe we've gotten to 100. It feels a bit insane that I've been sat here doing this 100 times. But I am really excited for today's episode. I have done a fair bit of knitting and I'm really excited about the projects I'm working on or I am about to start working on. So I think we'll head right into it. And this week, one of my finished projects is also the thing I'm wearing, and I'm wearing finally my Cumulus blouse O-neck. I didn't spend that long working on this, but to me it still felt like quite a long time because I have been kind of working on this in my head ever since I started planning to make it. So in my head it's kind of been a whip ever since February, but I only started working on it the 6th of June. But here it is, it's finally done and I am absolutely in love with the way it turned out. I made it quite cropped because I was a bit afraid of running out of yarn while doing the sleeves, and also I'm calling this my first summer knit of the year. It might be a bit hard to justify a double-stranded mohair sweater as a summer sweater some places, but it's definitely a summer sweater here. It's light, it's breathable, and in my opinion just very summery. I'm out and about in Norway in summer and at festivals you can see a fair bit of mohair sweaters, so this is definitely very much a summer sweater the way I look at things, and it is the first one I've been able to finish this year. But because I'm going to be using this as a summer sweater, I did crop it, but as you can see it hits right about where all of my pants start, so I really like that length. And I made the sleeves quite long. I have made a Cumulus blouse O-neck before, and with that one I ended up making the sleeves a bit short, both because I didn't try it on enough and because I was really eager to have it finished then as well. So that's a bit crop sleeves. I wanted to do kind of the opposite with this one, so they kind of fill opposite needs. My other Cumulus, the body is a little bit longer, but the sleeves are more cropped, and then this is kind of the opposite, because even though I quite like a cropped body, I also really like to be able to wrap my hands up in the sweater sleeve, even in summer, even in heat. I just think it's so cozy. So I'm really happy with those modifications, and also a big modification I made to this that I really didn't mean to is that this is, the whole thing is knit on 4mm needles. It's supposed to be on 4.5mm needles, but I had brought the wrong needle size because I never read the pattern before I start. I just go right ahead, and since I was going to start this not at home, I just brought with me the needle I thought was right, and I didn't want to wait to cast on, so I cast on using 4mm needles. And I don't know because I haven't tried with this yarn and 4.5mm needles, but I really think it worked in my favor. I am a big fan of how the stitches look with this one. I think I said that last week as well, but now that the whole thing is finished and it's also been worn a bit and I have steamed it, I am really a fan of the tighter stitches. I don't know how it would look on 4.5mm needles, but I already think mohair is a bit hard to get even. I can certainly see some uneven stitches in this, and my belief is that it is easier to get it even when you knit a bit tighter. And I did try to knit a bit looser than I usually do, since I had already went down a needle size, but I am a tight knitter at heart, so I'm pretty sure I still knit tight, and with smaller needles it gave a really like nice, the stitches look really nice. I'm really happy with that. I'm pretty sure my stitches on my other Cumulus is a bit more uneven, but that's also a totally different yarn that I don't know how easy it is to get drops alpaca silk, brushed alpaca silk completely even. Also, it being mohair and the other one being drops brushed alpaca silk, it is quite forgiving because they're both, what would you say, hairy. They have a lot of halo, so they kind of hide a lot of mistakes. But that's one big modification I made, and because of that modification I also chose to do a modification on the sleeve. I decreased a bit less on the sleeve. Instead of every 7th row I did every 10th, just because I was afraid of losing positives. It still doesn't have a lot of positives, but it has more than it would have. I think I ended up decreasing 3 times less than I would have if I followed the right decrease. What is it called? If I decrease as often as I was supposed to, I would have decreased 3 more times. But that is my Cumulus. I ended up using kind of exactly 4 skeins of each color, and if I didn't say, I used drops kid silk in off-white, and I think the blue color is called Mist. This was also my wedding yarn, and it feels kind of weird to kind of finally have closed that chapter. I still have a little bit of the white like main wedding dress yarn, but this was the last of the wedding dress yarn that I had plans for, and now I've knit that. So for the first time in I think 18 months, I don't have a plan or something on my needles in this yarn, so it feels a bit weird, but I am so glad to have some of my wedding yarn now in my everyday wardrobe. I'm going to be able to wear it whenever I want to, and it brings back so many great memories for me, so I am super excited and absolutely in love with this sweater. But I think that is enough of me babbling on about this sweater. I also have a whole video about it if you're interested to hear more. But now we can head into my other projects, and I think we'll just kick it off with my slipper project. I have a project where I'm trying to make kind of everyone we know slippers for Christmas. I think I counted it up and it ended up being 45 pairs of slippers, so I'm making slippers all of the time, and the way I'm doing it now is that I have, from the time I do podcast on Fridays, and then from Friday to Wednesday I can knit on kind of whatever I want to, all of my selfish knits, all of my other types of knits, my summer knits, and knits for everyone else, and then from Wednesday until Friday that's slipper time. It's not that many days out of the week, but slippers go by fairly quickly, and I am already ahead of schedule, so far that's working out. I did that this week as well, but I started quite late on Wednesday because I had some other things that I really wanted to finish before I headed into slippers. I didn't want to drop something that was this far away from binding off just to do slippers, so I did get a late start, but when I started also I was supposed to finish this pair after the last podcast, but my rule is Wednesday until I podcast, so after I'd podcasted I really wanted to get back to all of my other knits, so the last pair of these had been waiting on me this whole week, so I did finish one or about half of the slipper, I think both of like the toe parts and the slipper, and then the other one I had already finished last week, so that's how I started my slipper journey this week. And these slippers were the last in the smallest size, so this is the smallest size of these felted slippers. The pattern is also the felted slipper pattern from Sandnes Garn. It's free, and I think it's in both Norwegian and English and one more language, but I can't remember. So highly recommend these as Christmas gifts, and if you start now you'll be able to make so many, and these slippers kind of work for everyone. Or the smallest size is I think 25 to 26, they're in EU sizes, And then the biggest size is 44 to 46. So you can fit quite a broad range of people in there. So this is a big recommendation if you want to do knitted Christmas gifts. But this was the last one of the small sizes. I've now made 2 in the small size. So that felt like good progress. I'm trying to like divide it into different categories so it's easier to see the progress, because with 45 slippers each pair isn't that much progress, but dividing it into different categories, it feels like so much more progress. So finished the smallest ones, and then I'm also trying to move by color, because I'm pretty sure I didn't get enough yarn in each color, so I'm kind of moving through each color to see where my problem is, or what colors I have a problem in, just so I can fix that problem as soon as possible, because I really did feel this week that I noticed that I didn't have enough yarn right before last week's podcast, and when I podcasted last week I hadn't really thought about it that much yet, but I really felt it this week, and it has kind of my motivation has taken a big hit because of it, because before I realized that, I thought I could just knit really without thinking, and once I'd knit through each color I was like done with that color, and now that's not the case. Every time I knit through a color I might have to get more of it, so it isn't as fun kind of, but I'm knitting through each color to see, and I have actually knit through my first color, which felt great because I had enough in this color, so I'm now totally done with this color. I think it's called Forest. Also all of the yarn is Drops Nepal. And another great thing is that I've also made 1 pair of the biggest slippers. They look absolutely ridiculous. They go from like shoulder to shoulder on me. I'm really excited to start felting some of these. I am also super nervous, but I think these that are in the same color can be felted together. I think that's the way I'm going to do it. Felt everything in the same color together, and then I'm going to ask my grandma and the internet for some help to perfect felting. But this is one of the biggest pairs. I don't know how many pairs I'm going to do in the biggest size. I should probably look into that, but it feels great to have done the biggest pair, and this also only took me 1 day. So as long as I knit these slippers, I'm definitely going to be able to do it in time for Christmas. I'm also still having a lot of fun checking it off on my like goals app that just tells me the percent I'm through my goal of Christmas gifts, and I think right now I'm at 17%. My goal for this week was to get to 20 or 25%, because that would be really fun. But since these slippers and these slippers count for the same percentages, I didn't get there. But in like workload, this is way more work and way more yarn than these were. So I did make great progress, and I did get rid of 1 color, which feels amazing. Unfortunately, I'm pretty sure I'm moving from the color that has the least amount of skeins to the most amount of skeins, and I'm pretty sure like the next 3 colors that have the least amount of skeins have the least amount of skeins because I don't have enough of those colors. So that's a bit of a bummer, but it will be nice to figure out where I am lacking in yarn, because that means I can just solve the problem and kind of put that to rest and hopefully get all of my motivation back. I am still quite motivated, but I'm not as motivated as I was those first 2 weeks, I think it's been. Also, my slipper basket is now full, but in the bottom here there are some baby slippers that are done, but I don't know how to keep them, so I'll remember what slippers are for who, because I'm afraid they're going to all look quite similar. So I also think that I'm going based off size, and I'm going based off color, but I also think I need to go based off of families, so that I can finish all of the pairs for one family and then felt them, woven ends, do all of that and then put those together, so I'm sure that I don't misplace any. And I also think I need to maybe start packing some of them for Christmas, or at least like getting some way to label them also for the family, so they know the intended who's going, like the intended gift getter for each of them, because I think I'm going to put all of them in the same gift and then just label them with names so everyone knows what pair of slippers are for them, especially in the families where everyone has kind of the same foot size. But I don't know how many slippers I have now. I think I have 8, so that is quite a big percentage of 45 at least. When you look at that, we're still in June. Usually I don't really start making all of the Christmas gifts until like November, and then I have to stress knit all of the Christmas gifts like the last week before Christmas. So I'm feeling really great this year, and hopefully this is going to give me way less stress around Christmas time, because that's really needed. I've just been stressing through Christmas the last couple of years, and I really want to be able to work on more like on theme projects this year, more like Christmas theme projects, instead of just stressing through Christmas gifts. So hopefully this head start will help me do that. But yeah, that is the slipper project so far. It's also really fun to do it because I get to lug so much yarn out of my yarn stash. Of course, my yarn stash also grew a lot when I got all of the yarn for the slippers, but just with those biggest one I did this week, I was able to lug more than 200 grams back out of my yarn stash in just a day. So it's really fun to watch it decrease. I have over 40 kilos right now, so the crazy part of me really wants to get back under 40 during June, but I have like 2 kilos still to go and only 10 days of June, so I don't know how likely that's going to be, but it would be really fun. But that is it for the slippers, and I think while we're still on everything that's going to be felted and still on everything that's knit in Nepal, we'll move on to my felted sitting mat, or this is going to be bigger than a felting sitting mat. It's going to be like, I don't know what you would call it, liggunderlag. I'm hoping, I'm just going to call it sitting mat because that's the only word I know. I'm hoping that this, when felted, will be about 2 meters or 220. That would be perfect and like ideal when going camping to have this underneath, or it would just be able to fit a lot of people if you're out and everyone wants to sit. But I don't know how much this will felt. It's in different yarn qualities. I've never really felted anything this long, so I don't know how long to knit it, which that's my biggest problem currently, but I still think I have quite a ways to go. I did roll this all out to kind of measure it, only I didn't have measuring tape or anything else to measure, so I just folded it into and tried to like eyeball if it was more or less than 1 meter. I think it's kind of right around the meter mark, and I don't know how long I need this to be. If I want it to be 220 when it's done, I don't know how much it will shrink. Will I need it to be like 3 meters? Is 260 enough? I have made like a miniature version of this for my son and felted that, and that didn't shrink that much, but I don't know if some of these other yarn qualities will shrink more, if it will felt more or less since it's so big. So kind of want to play it safe and knit longer than needed, but I also don't want this to be so long that I am kind of unable to use it. So I think right now I'm heading for the 260 mark, and then we'll see when I get there how I feel about it. But this week I did this from the grey here, and then I did the white, and then I did the rest of the grey. So the greys are leftovers from my Dagmar jacket, and then this white is left over from the big sheep that I made my son this year, and I've also used some of this white to do a Sophie shawl for my aunt. That's another part I really like about this, that there are so many memories in the yarn. I thought that I would be done after all of those scraps, and that with the scraps from the felted slippers, because there are going to be some scraps in some of the colors, I thought I'd be able to make another one of these using that, but I think I'm going to need to use those scraps on this blanket as well to get it done. But it is a really fun project. I don't think this is the last time I'm going to make one of these, especially if you start using them while camping. I think we'll need like 3 of these, and it is like the perfect way to use my Nepal scraps. I never know what to do with my Nepal scraps. If I have like 2 skeins, I'm able to use them, but most of these are less than 1 skein, and then this is perfect. Also, the smaller version of this is a bit crazy, but I've done a few of the like regular sitting mats. This is also a free pattern from Sandnes. They have a lot of great resources when it comes to felting. I think this is just called sittunderlag. I don't know what languages this pattern comes in, but it is a free pattern from Sandnes. That's where I have like the base of this pattern, and then for the big one I think I might have cast on a couple of more stitches, and I'm also knitting it way longer. But pro tip, if you want to use up some of your Nepal scraps, some of your Alaska scraps, some of your VAM scraps, there is also some alpaca wool in here, just anything kind of that thickness. Fritidsgarn would also be good. I think once I'm done with all of my Fritidsgarn projects that I'm doing with this yarn back here, that yarn will also, all of the leftovers from that will go into this one. So I highly recommend this if you have scraps in any of those qualities. And then let's see what's next. I have not been able to, or that's not completely true, I have not wanted to work on that many projects this week. I go through different phases. Sometimes I have so much fun working a little bit on that, working a little bit on that, and just rotating through my projects so I can do everything I like to do. And sometimes I just wanna hyper focus. I wanna knit on one thing until it's finished. Before I started YouTube, I was actually a monogamous knitter. I would knit on one project until it was done and then move on to the next. And I've kind of moved away from that because I like to do a little bit of everything, and especially as my son is growing up, I'm kind of having less and less time to sit and like hyper focus on my knit. So I like being able to have loads of different ones that fit every situation, but sometimes it feels so great to just hyper focus on a knit, be like really into that specific knit and just knit on that every chance you get. And it often leads to me being able to knit a bit less, because if you're just knitting on one specific project, that project might not be in the right stage for everything else happening in life. It might have gotten too big to bring out and about. It might be too complicated to knit on while doing something else. But sometimes it's just really nice to do it that way. And that's kind of been the mindset I've been in this week. First, it was the Cumulus blouse. I was knitting on this 100% of the time I was knitting until this was done. And then it's been slippers, and I've just been knitting on slippers. And then today I also have not gone back to any of my projects, which I probably should, but all of my other projects are kind of so far from being done and also so complicated, so I wouldn't be able to do anything else, and they would also be hard to bring with me, but they're also really far away from completion, so they didn't really fit the criteria for what I wanted this week. Because while I want to just focus on one knit, I also want that knit to be finished quite quickly. So cast on something new today. This is something that I've been dreaming about casting on for so long. I've been dreaming about this pattern ever since I saw it, and then I got some yarn that I really hoped would be perfect for this in January, and then I've kind of been on the fence for considering if it is the right yarn, because I am pretty sure that it will be a game of yarn chicken, but I just couldn't resist, and I'm using alpaca wool, which I think is my absolute favorite yarn. There is nothing that beats knitting with alpaca wool. It is so soft to knit with. The stitches when you knit with alpaca wool are so pretty, and when alpaca wool is being worn, it also just gets prettier, in my opinion. I've knit my son a stormy weather hat in alpaca wool. I think that's the only project in alpaca wool I've been able to keep, but I have knit a couple Sophie scarves in alpaca wool, which I also really enjoyed, but those are given away. But alpaca wool is amazing. I love it so much, but it's also super pricey, so I'm not able to knit with it that much. But when I am able to knit with it, I have the time of my life. So that's one reason I really wanted it for this blanket, because I love the way this blanket looks, and I really wanted the yarn for it to be special. If I didn't say, this color is almond. That's also a really nice color. It's a neutral, it's almost white, but it's like a warm white. And the pattern I'm knitting is Mini Augustins number 9. If you watched me before and watched any of my like baby knitting videos, you might know that I absolutely love the Mini Augustins number 1, I think it is. That is a round blanket that is knit with tons of lace details in like different sections, so it always stays fun, and then you have to block it at the end, which is not that fun, but it looks absolutely amazing when it's done. And this is the same thing. It's a blanket knit in round with all of these different sections with different things going on, but this is of course a different lace work. This has bubbles, which always scares me so much, but I think they look great. They're not my favorite to knit, and they look kind of scary to do, but I think they're great once they're done. They're also super time consuming, I'm learning by doing this, but so far I think this is turning out really well. And my absolute favorite part about this blanket is that on the border you knit around the whole blanket at the end. There are cables, and I think a round blanket with like a cable border will be so pretty. And I've also been wanting for really long, since I am such a big fan of round blankets, I've been wanting to kind of expand my horizons, because I think I knit the Mini Augustins number 1 pattern 5 or 6 times now, and I am a huge fan of that pattern, so I'll definitely always come back to it. It's also a easier knit than this one, probably also because I'm so familiar with that pattern, but so far I'm having a lot of fun with this as well. I am almost through my first skein now. I have 6 skeins in total, which I'm not sure about, but I hope that if there comes to a point where I'm like 100% sure I don't have enough yarn, that I can just buy new yarn to do the border, because I think that should be fine even if it is a slightly different dye lot. It is also a blanket for a baby, so I don't think dye lots matter that much, as long as it doesn't like become like a stark line in the middle of the work. But I think a bordering kind of different dye lot should be fine. But yeah, that is the Mini Augustins number 9. I have been knitting a lot by Augustins lately, and every time I knit from her, I just fall more and more in love with her patterns, her designs. I love her designs. They are really fun to knit. They're full of details and frills, and they're kind of different from most of everything else I knit. I knit a lot of like plain sweaters, functional kind of sweaters, but Augustine's ones are more fun, kind of more feminine. I am a big fan, and then she also writes her patterns so well. I've had like some issues with some things, but that's just because I usually do things a bit different. But the way she explains everything is really great, and with these as well, every time I make something new with these blankets, I am a bit afraid because, oh no, I've never done this before. How am I going to be able to make this happen? But it's so like clear. So I don't really second guess anything while I'm knitting, just when I'm thinking ahead. So I highly recommend Augustins' DK. She has a lot of amazing patterns, both for babies and adults. She doesn't have that many clothes for babies. I wish she would have more, because I think that would be so cute in her style. But she does have a few of these blankets, and I love them. I highly recommend making one of her blankets. And just if you're going to make a blanket for a baby at all, try to find a round one, because making round blankets are so much more motivating than making a blanket back and forth. You see your progress so much quicker. I cannot articulate how much better it is to make a blanket in the round. But that's something I started today, and since I'm still in the mood where I just want to hyper focus on my knits, this will probably be the knit I focus on until this is done, and we'll see by then if I'm in the mood to work on multiple things at once. I have not been able to work on, or I have not worked on my birthday knit this week. I have kind of wanted to, but I've been in the middle of so many other processes. But I hope if I finish this before Wednesday, and when slippers start again, I hope that I'll be able to come back to my birthday cast on, because now that I have finished my first summer knit, I am so excited to do all of my other summer knits. I have quite a few summer knits planned for myself. I really hope I'll be able to get to them all, while also doing slippers. I really hope that when this summer ends, that I'll look back on it and be really happy with how much summer we had, first of all, but with the summer knits I chose to make, with how many I was able to make, and hopefully every summer knit I make will be one that I want to wear all of the time, and hopefully one that I'll want to layer in winter. But I really hope I'll look back at this summer and not only remember doing slippers, because while I am so glad that I probably won't have to stress with the deadline at the last moment, I also want to be able to enjoy all other seasons. So we'll see. But that's something I really hope I'll be able to do this week, to go back to my birthday knit. And then honestly, I hope I'll want to go back to being more of a 100 projects knitter, because I already have so many projects. So if I'm going to be able to decrease my whips, I kind of need to be able to be back in the mindset where I want to knit on everything all at once. I still have the Korsvika Junior here that I really need to work on for my son. That's also a test knit, so I really need to work on that. I just have not been in the mood this week, so I've just honored that. I don't really want to push myself when it comes to knitting, because it is my hobby. I want it to stay fun, and I know if I push myself when it's not fun, that I'll just be in a knitting slump, and that will just make me knit less all over. But I hope I'll get to the Korsvika. I really hope I'll get to the Dawn to Dusk. I've been saying that for weeks now. I really hope I'll be back to working on that. And the thing I hope to do the most is to start knitting with these. These are meant for the Naked Tee by Naked Knits. I think the whole sweater is knit on 2mm needles, which feels crazy, but I think that would be an amazing sweater. I think I would wear that all of the time, and also this color just makes me so happy. But each of these are 1200 meters, and I don't have anything to like make skeins out of them. I'm going to visit my grandma to see if she can help me, because I really want to be able to cast on the naked tee hopefully this week. But with the naked tee, since that is on 2mm needles, I know that that's going to be a long-term project, so I don't think we'll be able to get to this if I'm still in the mindset where I want to be a monogamous knitter. But fingers crossed. I think the blanket now is my third kind of monogamous knitter project, so I can kind of feel it start lifting and me wanting to like discover more projects, work on more projects. That's probably why I'm so excited for these. But the first problem is being able to turn them into skeins. But I'm really excited. I really hope I'll be able to get to this, because if I'm going to be able to wear this sweater while it's still summer, I need to start while it's still June. And then maybe I'll be able to finish it by like mid-August, and that will hopefully still be summer. I think that might be doable. We'll see. That's something I'm super excited about. And then another project I cannot get out of my mind. I have honestly been just sat looking at that instead of doing anything productive for multiple hours this week, and that is this dress. It is the prettiest knit thing I've ever seen, and I cannot get it out of my mind. I can not move on with my life. I need one. So a lot of this week I've been looking at yarn to make it, kind of budget-friendly options, what color I would want, because it would be the project of a lifetime. This dress is based of Camisole number 9. It's on 3mm needles. It's like floor length. It's amazing, and it's a huge project. I need it to be like perfect. Parts of me really wants to go with blue. Blue is like my comfort color, but blue has so many shades, and I am kind of unable to decide. I've also been talking to my husband about this, talking his ear off. He's probably not interested, but he has kind of no choice. And I've been sending him so many different yarn options, both the budget-friendly ones and the very much not budget-friendly ones, because I have been looking at both Knitting for Olive Pure Silk and Knitting for Olive Merino, because I like their colors in merino a lot better. But I don't know what I'm going to go with, but I've been sending him those, all of the pictures. I'll kind of show you some of the colors I'm interested in, but I don't know what I'm going to go with. As I said, blue, comfort color, I would probably enjoy that very much, but getting the right shade is super hard, and my husband's vote is for red, and I've also been really enjoying red the last, I think, couple of years now. I've been adding so much red to my wardrobe, and I also think that's a great color, but it might be a bit dark and bold for summer. So I'm struggling. Also, the red Helix is only in merino, and I don't know if I would like to do it in pure silk, but I also don't find pure silk that enjoyable to work up. So I'm trying to figure that out. I would love any and all suggestions. What color you think would suit me best. I am struggling so much. I think I'll have to do a color analysis or something before I choose yarn for this project, because it kind of feels like the Mount Everest of projects. But I really, really, really want it. It is such a pretty dress, so I'll just have to figure it out. But I also need it to be the right color if I'm going to put in so many hours. But yeah, I really hope I'll be able to do that. It looks amazing, and I think it would be so fun. I had a lot of fun making my wedding dress, but that was also stressful because it was so important, and I didn't really have anything to base it on, whereas here there is a pattern to base it on and someone has done it before me, so I just cannot get it out of my mind. I'm so excited every time I think about it, so I really hope I'll be able to do that. I would love to be able to do that, and it would also be really fun to kind of splurge on yarn for myself. I most everything I make is with more budget-friendly yarn or with yarn from the Sandnes Garn outlet. It would be fun to be able to make myself, but just really nice yarn. But yeah, that's basically what I've been thinking about all week. But yeah, that is everything I knit on this week, thought about knitting this week, finished this week. It was a great week. I had a lot of fun. I hope you had fun watching this episode. If you did, please leave a like and a comment, and if you want to see more from me, please subscribe. Bye!